I guess the screen is visible.
Yes, yes, we can see that. So you can make
So
your presentation. Yeah.
yes, sir. So my project use case that I have took for this machine learning is that remaining useful life of a lathe machine tool. So since we already have the data set, person from MTech student has done experiments. So from there I got this data set. So the project is like something depending upon the vibrations that is coming out of the machine, we will be recording those values, and depending upon the cutting parameters, we will be predicting the tool life to up to which limit it can be run. So the implementation idea is basically we are going to use a linear regression, and then we will be finding the from the data set the intercepts and slopes. And once that is we will be finding the tool life also. Once tool life is found and the real time vibrations are being given to us, we will be seeing the corresponding remaining useful time for the tool. So the platform used here is MATLAB. So these are the some of the steps that I have took for implementing this project. First is basically the pre-processing, where the relevant input data and output data are segregated into a Excel sheet, and then I have just imported those data set into the MATLAB platform and visualized one by one. And then I have found intercepts and slopes using the linear regression models. Once the training is done, I have also tested with the test data, and then tried to plot the same using y is equals to mx plus c. Also here I have used this tool life formula from Taylor's equation, 70 by v to the power of 4. And then um, the tool life is being predicted, so the number of minutes it
So
can
Vishnu,
be.
how you get
Yes
this
sir,
two life equation? From where you got this?
I have googled it sir, like for
No, no, this two life equation then may not be in a universal equation. No? It has to be used only in certain context with a certain workpiece tool combinations.
okay sir.
So this two life equation, I'm not sure first of all what exactly. So this is always specific to a particular cutting tool and a material actually.
Okay sir.
So I'm not sure how you have
Yes,
used
sir, we
it.
can
But,
alter the formula for the tool
correct,
life then.
correct, correct, correct.
Yes, sir. So these are the data sets. So first data set where we are having this RMS vibration values, using which we will be finding the intercepts for the model. And then second data set that you're seeing, where we have found the full run experiments. Depending upon the vibrations, we have plot them in a straight line and took the slope for each readings. So that is the second data set. And third one is basically plotting these input values against the vibration and seeing how it actually looks and what are the limits basically. So once that is done, the first linear regression model is where I have used the SVM cubic model, and then I have tried to predict the data. So the second model that we are seeing is a normal linear regression model. So the number of data used here was very less. So the predictions were also getting somewhat far from the uh, acceptable range. So the first model RMSE error was 3.7692. So the second one was 0.19, but the for the second one, the data maximum that we are seeing was about like zero point 0.5 only. So for a zero point 0.5 predicted true responses, the prediction value of error 0.1 is actually not in acceptable range. So more number of experiments has to be conducted so that this predicting of slope model can be made into an ideal model. So this is the tool life formula that I've used for the from the Taylor equation. But for the actual tool life equation should be like something written in the second line. V t to the power n, f to the power n1, and d to the power n2. Since the data was not enough and these finding the n1 n2 terms are a little bit difficult, I have simplified into the first line equation. And then I have also tested the data once the model is trained. I have used these set of input parameters where 45.1, that data is actually the speed, feed, depth of cut, cutting speed, and the diameter of the tool. Sorry, the raw product. And then when vibration value is coming from a sensor, say for example it is minus 42.5, then correspondingly I will just try to correlate that with the line that I have made from the model to find out how much the tool has been machined earlier itself. So from that I have found that it is approximately like 2 minutes it has been machined already. And from the tool life formula I have found that it can be used up to 5.8 minutes. So separating the tool life with this vibration value that I am getting. So I am getting somewhat 3 minutes where I can be able to use the tool for machining. So this is the remaining useful time that I will be using for the machining of tool. So from this, I would like to conclude that the number of data set that is available for the second model was very less, and the error is not in acceptable range. So number of experiments conducted on those things should be increased, and again the model has to be trained. That is the conclusion. And then for the deployment, so once the model is prepared, like a number of experiments are enough and the model is made into ideal model, then while deploying, what we will be getting is actually we can use the tool to the fullest, like maximum life we can use it before regrinding it for the next set of cycle. So that can be the one thing. And then from this we will get to know when the tool gets weared completely and when we have to use the new tool. So depending upon that we can also have the inventory stock depending on the availability of the tool. And then while predicting these remaining useful life, the amount of quality that is coming out of each product can be made better, since we are predicting it that the tool will be failing in 3 minutes or something. So we can find out that we won't be able to use it after 3 minutes. So ultimately the roughness that is coming out of the product will be less. So that's all from my side.
Vishnu, I just look forward that first of all, where is the economic analysis part here actually? So if you see here, if I predict the tool and I say that remaining useful life is this much and my tool is still be able to perform. So where the whatever is the error part that you have captured,
Yes,
what is
sir.
the impact of that error into the final outcome? So
Okay.
if I have to make a business decision out of this, whether I should implement the machine learning,
Yes, sir.
and I'm not getting an enough confidence on the model that you have built.
Um,
Because we discussed this aspect during the one of the session. It's a though whatever we discussed is more on the classification part, but I think same learning can also be taken to the regression. So if I say there's a, so how much is the percentage error that you are getting here?
so something like 3.7692. Like suppose say I am getting a vibration actually in machine is 42, then it is
Uh-huh.
predicting like 45 or something.
Okay.
So depending upon that, actually if the tool can work for like 5 minutes, it is predicting like it can work only for 3 minutes. Actually, this is the difference. So by
So that is
reducing this
what
effect,
is the impact of that if I predict a less life or if I predict a more life?
yes,
What are
the
the
tool
possible
cannot be
impacts?
used to the maximum life. Like suppose say 2 is more there to be machined, but if I am changing it again, like changing it before its usage, then the wastage of tool will be there. Like the cost of
Correct,
spending
correct.
tool can be
So that
increased.
is what I was saying. If we could have taken some example and we could have assessed that part, any job
Uh,
can be taken up, and if we can see how much, how many two
yes,
lives
sir.
are required to use that. Huh?
I was trying to same do that in the matrix format. Since that was coming under classification, so I left it. But I took example and just made the matrix and all. But later I came to that came
And
to know
when you
that
are
it is a,
supposed to deploy this, how you will deploy finally if it is to be implemented?
sir, deploy in the sense.
Finally, if I want to make use of the development that you have done or whatever model that you have created, so if I have to use it on a real-time basis,
Yes,
how
sir.
that I will do?
So so for the test data I have showed, no sir, like
No, so I'm just saying that I got it. That is one part of that. So in that case, how I will use the real-time data from a machine and will be able to push
communicate
the
with
data to
the
the MATLAB actually. So how that will work in this case? And
basically from lathe machine, if we are getting the vibration, so we will be communicating with the PLC. So from PLC we can use a Modbus, and through Kepler we can communicate with the OPCUA toolbox with MATLAB. From that we can push it.
yeah, so that part is also important part, because if we could have attempted something on that aspect, that could even be better, so that we'll see the, because as we were keep on giving emphasis on that the deployment part, once we create
sir.
something and we are not reaching to the last mile to at least make use of the model. So if that process could also be explained, at least not implemented, it could have also be explained in your presentation, that could add value to this.
Yes, sir. But mostly it was on the model part, so I didn't give focus on the communication part.
Okay.
Like how we are going to connect it.
Okay, fine. Anupji, over to you.
No, I have some very basic questions. So,
yes, sir.
Again, what you have presented is probably an understanding of certain techniques of doing the ML activity.
Yes, sir.
But if you present this data to a user, what is he going to get out of it?
Sir, you will be getting the actual time that he has. You will be supposed to use the tool, like that will be the.
So typically, if a tool is used correctly, what is a typical life, a new tool, assuming that the operator and the setting and all that vibrations.
So in that case, sir, the vibration will be again somewhat less. So say for example, it will be in -5 or -7 something. Depending upon that, the time that we have predicted here, 2 minutes, this will be somewhat higher. So the
Question is maybe you can't answer it today, but you can go back, think about it.
Yes, sir.
I have purchased a new tool.
Fine, sir.
What is the expected life of it under good operating conditions?
Okay.
So usually I assume that every customer has that in his mind that, okay, I made this investment, should last me for so much of time. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Correct.
Then because he's not able to measure and track the abnormality of the operation, the way the job is addressed or the way the vibration is allowed to continue, because of those conditions, the tool wears out faster.
Yes, sir.
So residual life is going to get severely impacted.
Yes, sir.
And he needs to know in advance what is happening.
Okay, sir.
Then maybe there is also a correction which is possible so that he can later on extend the RUL through appropriate corrective action.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Because until you do all of that, your business case will not come out also.
Yes, sir.
So maybe it requires more time. Maybe it requires going back and relooking at the formula. Maybe it also goes back and trying to get a connectivity with the real-time data. But business case really is the one which will give the approval or non-approval for somebody to go for adopting a sophisticated technology.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I think that's a feedback. I think because you keep continuing working in this area, you can make use of it, and we look forward that at least the actual implementation of this shall happen in the FSM. Okay. Okay, fine. Thanks, Vishnu. Next, we will take Ronak.
I hope my screen is visible.
It's coming up, so we are just waiting for the same. But we are able to see the black screen only. No, I think some window is overlapping onto your presentation, so we can't see the presentation. Still an overlap window is visible. Yeah, now it is coming up, but still content is not there.
1 second, sir.
Yeah, maybe because of the network. Yes, it is visible now.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. So I'll start my presentation. So my problem statement was to predict the amount of impurities in an ore concentrate in a mining operation by building a machine learning model. So basically, it was a frost flotation plant where ores are purified, and so in each batch we had to find the impurities. We had to predict the impurities that would be in the ores. So there were two basic objectives. The first target was to predict the percentage of silica in the end of the process, and the second one was was to find out that is it possible to predict the percentage silica concentrate without using the iron concentrate column. So in the data set, an iron concentrate column is also there. So without using that, can we still find out the percentage silica? So these were the two objectives of this. So this is a basic data set description. There were 23 parameters used, and it was quite a big data set with 737,000 entries. And I've listed the parameters that were used: iron feed, silica feed, and other different parameters. So this was my basic approach. First of all, pre-processing the data to replace the NA values. Then in the data set, instead of decimals, there was the use of commas. So replace that, separate the date into day, month, and year columns, because the whole date was in one column. To just use the months instead of years and days, because it was the same year, and in the same day there were multiple entries. So to do that, separate the date. Then visualization, I made a heat map to see how other parameters affect the silica percentage. Change in other parameters affect that. preparing, I made two training data sets because there were two objectives, one with the ion and one without ion. And I tried two models in this, linear regression and ridge, and I tested on the models. So this was the heat map that I got. And as if my mouse is visible, the second last parameter is the silica concentrate that we had to predict. So there was, I saw that there was no significant parameter that like made a huge impact or had insignificant impact to rule it out. So yeah, after doing the linear regression with the ion, I got a score without the ion. Sorry, the first one is supposed to be without the ion. I got a testing score of 0.157, so 15% accuracy. It was a very bad model. And with the ion, it was 68%. And Ridge had similar values. I changed the model and ran it again, and Ridge at similar values. So is it possible to predict silica without using the percentage ion? No. Ion concentrate played a significant, as the model scores showed, concentrate played a crucial role in predicting the silica percentage. So basically there's the scope of improvement, which is to use other techniques to get a better score, because 68% is still not a good score for a model. So to use different methods and get a better model, because while testing, I had while doing the project, one of my main hurdles was the size of the data set. So while trying other methods, what I came across was it was taking a lot of time, and most of the times it didn't even finish. So the size to handle the data set more efficiently, I have to go back to pre-processing part and make some more changes maybe. And other scope of improvement would be test on simulated data, some real-time data, as sir had also mentioned during the lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, so in this case, what I found, this is, I think, because this problem that you picked up is from literature only. That is what I can understand.
So it was a kind of someone had provided the real data on
Okay.
a database website for engineers to explore and see and work with real data. Initially,
Okay.
I had picked up data like a challenge, PSM challenge, which was about an ion beam etching machine. It was various parameters, and we had to find the RUL, as well as we had to predict the maintenance time when the machine would need maintenance. So I started with that, but in that also I faced a big issue of handling the data set, because it was like a 30 GB data set, and the amount of data and the processing power that I had. So maybe I needed to get a better way of handling the data. Even in this, as I was trying with other techniques, I was not able to make the models, because it was taking a lot of time to run.
Okay. See, our idea was to get something where that is kind of a complete real life problem that is being addressed. That is what I am just looking at, because from your implementation, we didn't get any concrete conclusion as such.
Yes, sir.
So maybe the reason that you are explaining the large data set, but I think some subset of that data can also be tried out and then explored. That could be a possibility, or the problem that we will be addressing will be limited to the size of the data that your system can handle. That could be a
Yes, sir,
better
definitely.
option.
Maybe refining the data and discarding parts of it. Maybe
Because
a
to
little bit
be
more pre-processing would
correct.
make it better.
Correct. So to be very frank, that is what I was just looking at. Still, I see this as more an academic project or maybe a small term project in a course. I'm still not getting a sense of that could be an industrial problem that we are attempting to solve right now.
Yes, sir.
So just see that, in fact, if you can explore this further and whatever learning you have done could be really useful for some real-time implementation of any industrial problem solving.
Yes, sir. I did come across some other data sets of CNC machines and similar other industrial machines. So I'll try those out as well.
Okay. Thank you. Anupji, your inputs.
Ronak, you had done your earlier project 202 on some machines, right?
Yes, sir.
So was it not possible to take something from that project?
Sir, it is a very traditional kind of workshop. So there are no sensors or there was no possibility to get data from there.
You mean it wasn't possible to get actual data, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what Dr. Jha is suggesting, how will you manage that?
Sorry, sir.
What Dr. Jha is suggesting,
Yes, sir.
do you think you'd like to take on an extension of this project to cover something which is more realistic in your world?
Yes, sir. I'll try to get real data sets, but right now I was limited to the data sets that I found on the internet. So, sir, do you suggest I take an example like a CNC machine, the data sets that are already available, or how should I go about?
Yeah, maybe we should discuss this offline,
Yes,
because
sir.
if you are interested in that discrete machining area and you only require access to some data, then we can see whether FSM machines are available for that project. But we do need to discuss this offline, especially because next week there is I think on 9th, we are supposed to be part of a panel discussion, right? Are you
Yes,
aware?
sir. Yes, sir. I'm aware.
So maybe we'll cover this also. We can talk in a day or maximum in 2 days time.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay, good to have you back.
Thank you, sir.
Next is
Thanks. So next will be Akhilesh.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen.
Yes.
Sir, I have added one extra slide after I submitted the presentation.
So you can use your slide. That is okay.
Yes. Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yes. So my project covers the machine health monitoring of CNC machine of a particular tool using machine learning algorithms. So the object of this project is to convert a conventional lathe machine to a smart lathe machine. And the aim of this complete project is to predict the remaining useful life of the tool that is used for cutting. So to predict the remaining useful life, the vibration data that is coming from the machine is an important factor for it. So the first step is the data cleaning. So like I have obtained the data set from one of the MTech students who has worked on the lathe machine. So I have taken the data from there. So the data set contains these 13 features and 56 rows, which are the observations. So, but out of this data set, like all the observation, the features such as dates, run, or the max, mini, the status, or of not that important. So, at the initial stage, I have dropped all this data from the table, and so after dropping the data and cleaning the data, and there was some observations where the data was written as cache profit failure, and I have replaced the data with 0. So after cleaning the whole data, now I was left with 56 rows and 6 columns, out of which 5 are taken as the input, and the final column, the RMS data, which is also the vibration data, is taken as the output. So for visualizing the data, for checking like the dependence of RMS on different parameters, so this is the correlation matrix that I have taken. So for the values that are closer to 1, it means that the RMS has more dependence on that particular factor, and the values that are close to -1 shows that it has more dependence, but they're inversely proportional. For suppose if I consider the diameter to the RMS value, so this shows -0.78. It shows the increase in diameter might decrease the RMS value as such, or whereas if the diameter is less, the RMS value would be more. So using this, we can also get an idea the dependence of the features on the output values. So for machining time, so like this data that is we have two different sets of data over here. One is for the first data set, the machine has been run for a particular minute to capture the initial value of the vibration. So the experiments are conducted for 1 minute to calculate the vibrations for the fresh tool. And for this data set, the linear regression algorithm is used to train the whole data set. So after training the data set, so this is the graph that we have obtained for the prediction versus the actual values, and the root mean square error is used as a metric to identify like how good is the model that we have trained. Any value that is closer to 0 means the model is good, but as the data is less and also inconsistent, so we have obtained the root mean square of 5.9, which is not really good. And the data set, the other data set has experiments which were run completely till the tool has failed. So for that data set, we have applied the random forest regressor to find the slope to find the output variable that has been updated from the data. Even for this data, the data cleaning has been done as even this data set has all the extra columns such as the dates, run, status, mean. So all this data has been dropped. And the final data set had 13 rows and 6 columns, out of which 5 are the input features and the output was the slope. So even I have visualized the data using the correlation matrix for this data set as well. After that, so like once these two models are trained, so I have taken the new data, so which was in the data set itself, but this data didn't have the corresponding output value. So I have taken this data. So these are the 5 input features that we were talking about: the cutting speed, feed, depth of cut, RPM, and diameter. So as the RMS values of the vibration are depending on the machining time. So like more is the machining time, the more was
Akhilesh, just a minute. In this case, because you have taken RPM and the diameter and this cutting speed, they are not independent actually. They are the dependent variables. So in fact, if you see that, I'm not sure whether you understand the lathe machine cutting process. But in that case, the RPM and the diameter will give you tangential speed, and that is the cutting speed. So the last two, that RPM and diameter that you have taken, they are finally giving you the cutting speed.
Yes, sir. But what I was informed was like these are the parameters that can be configured by the user.
No, he cannot. No, the cutting speed and RPM and diameter, they have a dependency. They cannot be independently configured. The feed and depth of cut is fine. But if you see that machine is rotating and you have a spindle rotation, so omega is known to you, and radius you can get from the diameter. So the radius is R, omega is known from RPM. So tangential speed, that is cutting speed, is V is equal to R omega. Okay. It means that the last two parameters, RPM and diameter, giving me the cutting speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should have dropped this column.
Yeah, so these are the dependent one actually. That is the first thing that we need to see. Yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
And so we will be using this line equation y equals to mx plus c to find out the current vibration and also the machining time. So for this data,
No, how you use this equation y is equal to mx plus c?
Yes, sir. I'll be showing in the next slide. Sir, suppose like for the new data that we are getting in, so we would be using the first model, we would be predicting the initial value of the vibration, that is this model, that is the linear regression model. And using the second model, we will be predicting the slope for different values. As you
No,
can
no,
see,
that
for
is
the
okay. What I'm just trying to mention is that it's a multiple variable regression. It cannot be as simple as y is equal to mx plus c. It's only for one variable you can write y is equal to mx plus c. In your case, there are multiple features. So finally, the regression equation should be in terms of all those variables.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This y equals to mx plus c is to predict the machining time, sir, not for the regression model.
Okay. No. So from machining time, again, how you will write that equation? So machining time is equal to, again, there would be some coefficients that will multiplied with the variables. So
Yes, sir,
finally, that these coefficients, what you are trying to get out over here.
From this, the slope and the initial value, the c value.
So I'm not sure whether you have used that, because these are just directly predicting. You are predicting the value for a given data set.
Yes, sir.
Slope and coefficient, where you get the slope and so you are getting these slope and coefficients here, no?
Yes, after getting the slope and coefficients, I am putting this in the y equals to mx plus c data, where x is the dependent the time and y is the vibration value for over a period of 1 to 25 minutes. Okay, sir. So after this, we will be getting a plot for the vibration RMS value of the vibration data and the machining time. So whenever the new data of the vibration that comes from the sensor, so that data can be plotted
I'm
on
not
this.
getting, when you say machining time is what? See, machining time is what is machining time? Is that the life of the tool, or what is this machining time?
I mean, like for how many minutes it took to damage the tool.
So it's a tool life only, no, then?
Yes, sir, tool life.
So machining time is, then it's a tool life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ultimately, for the new value of the vibration data that we get, we have to predict the time, right, sir?
Correct. So if you go to the next slide now. Yes. So certainly we always plot the dependent variable on the y-axis and independent variable on the x-axis.
Yes, sir. RMS vibration versus the time that.
So vibration is the independent thing, and machining time is dependent. So if you could have plotted this machining time on the y-axis and the RMS vibration is on the x-axis.
Okay.
So against a given vibration, I can figure it out what is the machining time, or what is the tool life.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But apart from this, like I have also sir, can I show the code as well?
No, that is not required in today's meeting. We can discuss offline separately. My only observations are that we need to understand the domain also. That is what I keep emphasizing. Now, this is the scenario where we need to see whether we are understanding the actual issue or we are just applying the data science.
Yes, sir. Because if there is any new value that is coming, such as
no, if you can just go back, show me the graph again. So if I can say that for machining time 20, I will be having a minus 22 vibration. What does it mean? I'm not getting a sense out of it.
Sir, actually, I meant so like if for the new vibration value that is coming in, suppose the vibration was minus 24, the new value that comes in for us from the sensor. So corresponding machining time at that particular point was 15 minutes.
And what does this mean? What does this 15-minute means?
I mean, it has been used for 15 minutes till now. And using the Taylor's formula, if we get another tool life, so subtracting that particular value from the value that we get from the graph, we will be able to predict the remaining useful life.
Okay, I think this require a further refinement in understanding, because if I know the machining, I'm not very clearly getting those thoughts that are coming out over here. So
Okay.
certainly anybody from industry, if you will explain him, he may not be getting in a complete picture what you are trying to communicate.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah. So for minus 25.5, the time that would be is 8 minutes, and from the Taylor's formula, if we get the time as 20 minutes, so the remaining useful would be the 12. So we can use the tool for 12 more minutes. So this is what I wanted to show here. And apart from this, apart from the graph, we can also predict this 8 minutes using the same formula, using the line equation y equals to mx plus c as well. Yeah, sir. And
Okay.
yeah, that's it, sir. And for the in the final, so but these models are not good for deployment as the data is very less, and also the model's accuracy is also not good. So if we can get in more data, then we can have a better analysis.
See, yeah, that's true. But I am still not very happy with the way project is being done as an assignments actually. See, normally that is what I keep on indicating since beginning, that we need to really formulate an industry problem, and the outcome of these projects can be shown to someone actually. So I'm not sure how that can be improved further. But these are more looking like a machine learning assignments that has been given, and we are doing a lab problems as such in the course. So first of all, this has a similarity with what Vishnu was also doing. That is okay, but this can be, there are many ways to attempt the problem on the same lathe machine. It's not just in a remaining useful life is important, or there may be another classification problem can also be identified. And because if the data is small, we can even look forward for some other data set that is available, not just what is being captured on the machine. So it's all fine, but I look forward, in fact, expecting even a better quality project that is being done, because it requires a sincere effort for identifying a problem. Because some of the issues that we were discussing during the live sessions, I was looking some impression of those things will be at least appearing in the whole project implementation.
Yes.
Okay, Anupji, your input.
I think you have raised the right red flag. So I will not repeat that question. I will, Devesh, in this whole course, your learning has been, can you summarize the learning on data science and the learning on the lathe machine, both the physical aspect and the data science aspect?
Yes, sir. For the main idea of this course was how can machine learning be used for industry related applications. So suppose there is any application, and so we should be able to visualize and analyze if we can use data science or machine learning in that problem, and can add more to the business needs.
Okay. But specifically to be able to answer, you probably need to go back more into some fundamentals. I think that will also apply to the others, that if I go to a user and I tell him that, boss, I'm going to do a sophisticated ML for you, he's first going to compare it with not taking any action on ML.
Yes.
You're right.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So let's say you buy a equity share of a company based on some fundamentals, just 2-3 fundamentals, and you are making money on that. And then somebody comes to you and says, I have an algorithm and I'm going to run this, you know, whenever the stock market is open, and it will give you this curve and that curve and this equation and that equation. He's going to come from the fact that, are you helping me double my profit, or you are making me a convert into your computerization? So the caution is that whether it is ML or AR, but I think perhaps it is becoming more striking in this course that the need for technology has to come in because it is improving the accuracy of prediction of whatever knowledge the operators have, the mechanics have, the owner has, the engineer has, and that number of years of experience. This has to be definitely one notch higher than that.
Yes, sir.
Correct. So the way for us to be able to do it, even if I were in your position and I was attending the course, I would also find myself stuck if I did not answer those basic questions, or I didn't get into the depth of the fundamental operation of a machine and how a trained operator will handle it versus untrained operator. So, you know, if a guy is going to have a trained operator, his worry will not be as much as if he is forced to use untrained operators. So all I'm saying is, I would urge that let the course get finished in terms of the 1 month schedule, but the learning needs to continue. And I think we'll collectively try and figure out how to make this more useful. If a use case is presented to an audience of machine tool owners or machine tool operators, how can they be convinced to go in for a application of ML? That's the only message I thought I'd like to convey.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I think that is
Otherwise,
what,
yeah, I think
yeah.
you guys have put in effort. There's no doubt about it. But this journey perhaps is more complex than we imagined.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I think that is what the inputs that is required, because idea of the project is that, as you have rightly mentioned, we can share the outcomes and even some of the implementation to the people. They can get a sense how this will help them in improving their current processes. And I think some of the things we have discussed in the live session also. So where is the baseline actually, and how you will be able to compare with that baseline to decide whether it is going to improve and to what extent it is going to improve.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Very well said.
Yeah, like I thought the project should be more focused on how we implement this machine learning on a particular program. So because even I prepared the presentation in that way. So like maybe if I would have understood that if it was for a business need, maybe we could have done some more research and work on it.
Okay, I
Okay,
think
noted.
for,
Maybe
yeah.
we missed out giving definitely I missed out giving instructions, and I also now recognize that you were not part of the
Previous
203
course, yeah,
group.
correct,
So,
correct.
so the same template we are following here. In fact, we are giving more stress on the modeling part, definitely. But we also wanted the use case and the business case to be established as a sound fundamental. And then the detailed effort was on the modeling part. So you're right that you have covered the modeling aspect, but I mean, if you are open to reviewing it, we can do it subsequently. Thank you.
Thank
Part
you.
like business.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Next will be from Professor Mukhtar.
Is it my PPT is visible?
Yes, yes, we can see that. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My project title is Implementing of Machine Learning in Manufacturing of Hydropower Plant Equipment to Improve the Productivity. Okay, so these are the equipments which company is manufacturing. It is actually project-based company, and these are the various parts of hydropower plant equipments. I already mentioned, so I'm not discussing too much right now. And these are the processes, process sequence of hydropower plant equipment, fabrications, machining, and then assembly. And in machining, these are the majority of operations, primary operations carried out. In FSM 201, first I have done the project on setup of head cover, one of the part of hydropower plant equipments. This how easily can be done with the help of LED indications, and then designing of the smart dashboard in FSM 202. And in FSM 203, I have done implemented augmented reality for the setup activity. Okay, now in this FSM 204, so now in this hydropower plant equipment, okay, as it is a project-based company, okay, so project to project, there is a little bit change in the designing size and shape. Okay, so due to that the change in the design, okay, so it is very difficult to plan the process time. Okay, it is very difficult to predict what will be the process time on that particular machines. Okay, so planning is the most difficult activity in the project based company. Okay, and the reason is that frequently design change. Okay, and this company where I have done this project, data of this Alstom Project India Limited, so in that one also this suggests that there is always deviations between planned hour and actual hours, and due to that there is a problem in on-time delivery and clashes always between that planning department and production department. Okay, so the main issue was that large deviations between planned hours and actual hours. So the objective of this project is to reduce deviations between planned and actual process hours. So for that, what I have done, first of all, actually I want to classify the products or I want to make a group of similar products. Okay, so for making a similar product group, so we can easily plan or we can easily predict what will be the process time for that product. So first identify the key attributes, then applying the clustering algorithm to identify or to what is the similarity of that product, and then decide the optimum clusters, and then from that in which group that particular product is lying, based on that we are going to plan the process hours. So this is my attributes for the head cover. So let me show you the Excel sheet. Can you see the Excel sheet? Is it
No, it is not visible. Still, we are seeing PPT.
okay. Is it visible now?
Yeah, now it is visible.
Okay, so this is the data sheet which I have fabricated. It is not actual data, but I have find out what are the various attributes that can, on the basis of that we can identify the similarities. Okay, So this weight, what is the material of head cover, what is the internal diameter, outer diameter, okay. What are the number of wicket gate holes, okay. So in the circumference of head cover, there is a holes for wicket gate, okay. What are the number of facing operations on particular head covers, and what are the particular number of turning operation, that is reducing length and reducing the diameter, both things, and the number of holes longitudinal, okay. So without wicket gate, what are the number of holes need to be done on longitudinal directions as well as on the lateral directions, okay. So same way for bottom covers, okay. And then what is the length of wicket gate, is the size of the wicket gate is same on both head cover and bottom sides, okay. And then also or others parameter I also identify, but that I have not included in the data set. So this is a fabricated data set from my experience, okay. So this data set I have used. So using this data set, I have applied the k-means clustering on this one to identify the similarity of clusters. So, and then lastly, I have used elbow method to find out the optimum number of clusters. So it suggests that it is a 6 number of cluster is the optimum clusters here. So this is from my side.
Okay, so in case once you identify they are being put into the 6 cluster, how that will help the business?
Actually, sir, from this 6 cluster, from the they have identified, okay, so that the similar product they already manufactured in the past. From that, they can predict that, okay, this types of product has taken 5 hours or 6 hours on this particular VTL machines or boring machines. Okay, so according, they have some little bit idea that, okay, this is going to be take almost this amount of hours to complete the operation. So there is a less classes between that planning department and production department.
So does this qualify to be an ML project?
Yes, sir, it is unsupervised learning. I have applied for.
No, can you explain me again? Maybe I'm not getting it. You have used past data.
Yes.
So when you say unsupervised learning,
Okay.
There is an element of new data which is coming in.
Yeah.
And then you use that to predict something.
Yeah.
So how does the whole thing fit in here?
Predict that, say, sir, we have this past data, right? 500 data set we have. They have
this
head cover 500. So now, suppose the new head covers come with this specifications. Okay, the specification of the new head cover is this one. Okay, so I will predict, okay, under which cluster this new data set is coming. Okay, suppose it's come under to the data set of the third number of cluster. Okay, so I will see, okay, in the past, these are the head covers has taken this amount of time on this particular machine. Okay, so it can be easily identify that this amount of time is going to be placed.
Let me throw you a slight challenge. Yes. What if the new condition does not match any one of these 500 situations? It's a hybrid. Then what will happen?
Sir, then this methodology will not work, sir, because it is totally data dependent, past data dependent. Because see, these are the project-based company and they are producing head cover, but there is always, as the projects change, the little bit there is a design in the change in the design. Okay, so if totally you have a hydro power plant equipment, and if you are going to produce a thermal power plant equipment, so in that case it is
no. I'm not making the challenge as dramatic. I'm just saying that let most of the parameters be the same, except that instead of 4.5 internal, it is 4.6, and instead of 7.04, it is 7. 0.08, then what happens?
Yeah. Yeah, sir, that I can find out.
Dr. Jha, I mean, maybe you can throw light whether this is
Yeah, so what
is my question valid? I mean,
yeah, your
not
question is
even sure.
valid. In fact, what he tried to create is the clustering, because normally when we don't have any labeled information about this data, we create exploratory clusters. So these clusters have their own unique characteristics, but we don't know what are those characteristics. So what he has attempted is basically putting all these items that are being manufactured, and based on that he can come out with an understanding. There are 6 different clusters under which these are being manufactured, so these are processed. And what you are trying to say is certainly a classifications. Once we know how many clusters are there,
Yes,
the
sir.
next level would be to classify any of the new incoming data
Yeah.
and put into one of these clusters actually. So we'll be able to get what are the conditions, what are the requirements for producing that component within that cluster.
Yes, sir.
Mhm. So the first part is the just putting them in a cluster. That is what he has attempted. And subsequently, once we know the characteristics of each cluster, then we can identify where the new product will go into and which cluster it is and what are the unique characteristics of that cluster. And that may help in planning. So I think that will be the complete scope of the project that I can understand.
Okay, but it's an interesting use case, a very new application.
Yeah, certainly.
sir.
What I was just looking at, if we can take these use cases to a maturity level actually, because right now what we are doing in an exploratory mode actually. So we are just experimenting with some of the ML algorithm that we have learned. But to make a real impactful business case, if we can make the whole efforts in that direction, that will be more meaningful.
So here, because the same use case has been used throughout 201, 202, etc. That way, there is an advantage that we are addressing the same machine, and maybe we should just stick to defining improvement parameters and then seeing how each of these learnings can be integrated to give you that end result.
Correct.
So, because if one has to stay consistent with the promise of improving availability or quality or productivity, then we have to have in our mind some of those parameters as a definite goal in our mind, and then the learning is used to see whether we can actually make significant improvement and reach that goal.
Yes, sir.
So like you have assumed certain data.
Yes, sir. It is fabricated data.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a very good fabrication. Maybe you can also then look at setting some improvement targets and then see how we can play out all these different aspects together.
Sure, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we are done, or we have any more?
No, we have 2 more. Sridhar is the next.
Yes, sir.
Sridhar and Atul.
Yeah, Sridhar and Atul are there.
Yeah. So is my screen visible, sir?
Yes, yes, we can see that.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. And for the project in FSM 204, implementing machine learning in manufacturing. So I've just selected estimating oil condition in gearbox. So the domain area which I have fixed is in wind turbine, which I was following the same from FSM 202, just creating the dashboards for that wind farm, and FSM 203 and augmented reality implementation with respect to one of the component in the wind turbine. So moving to the project. So the actual background and why the machine learning or predictive analytics is major need for the wind turbines. So over an estimated wind turbine of 20 years, it is just estimated that the total it takes about 65 to 90% of its total investment cost only on the operations and its maintenance, where it comes includes service, repair, and everything. And when one research article I could able to see which and all taking the huge downtime with respect to this repair or inspection. So it starts from the mechanical brake, yaw system, drivetrain, hydraulic control system, and ultimately the major thing is the gearbox. It will be just taking the huge downtime, which is going to be like around 25 hours per year. So, and this is the reason why I've just take the condition for the gearbox. And in coming to the actual required output of my project, I wanted to provide a proper visualization to the user, whether I'm going to replace the gearbox or I'm going to repair the gearbox, or I'm going to, this inspection cost will be very nominal, and it depends upon what kind of in-depth inspection they are going to provide for that component. So, and this is the one of the data which I've just got it from the research paper, and this involves the separate cost. And if this is properly identified, and this will be a huge saving for the business aspects, rather than going into that wind turbine and just identifying and what is the problem and coming back to the plant and again sending the team to get it rectified. So, and this will be the real importance of the predictive analytics platform for the wind turbine. And how the exact deployment for this project is, we already this kind of turbines are equipped with many smart sensors, and we fetch the data into our PLCs, and from PLC through Kepler, we will be just pushing to the ThingWork analytics platform. And ultimate aim is not knowing about the complete mission algorithm, but only the visualization, where the person who doesn't know about the machine learning can be able to get the insights. He just wanted to know one for this turbine, I'm going to whether the replace or I'm going to repair the components, or whether the maintenance activity is required for that turbine. So this is what the ultimate visualization which is required for the maintenance engineer or a service engineer. So this is the outcome of the project. So, and in for this project case for the gearbox oil condition, so I'm going to just use a supervised learning in the, since I have just taken already used data sets. Maybe the data set is not relevant, but I'll just show them. So the part which I've just selected is classification. So just in sklearn, obviously it will be just taking the ratio of 70% of the training and 75 training and 25% of the testing data. And this is the data sets which we already just checked for the engine condition in our lab 4. What parameter I've just changed is rather than just checking the grease condition, I've just mentioned that as a oil level, which will just have a binary value, either 0 or 1. If that oil level is less than threshold, it is going to show a 0, or if the oil level is greater than threshold, it is going to get me with a value as 1. And that threshold value has to be fixed with respect to the performance with the previous data, whether I'm going to change the oil or I'm going to just run the turbine with respect to that value. And the one of the most important thing is checking the oil quality in the top wind turbine. It is one of the greatest challenge also, because we cannot have the proper equipment for the oil quality check. So I've just taken this, and this in lab 2 we have just tried this exercise. So only thing is I have imported the data into that, considering the oil level. And for the model training and evaluation, the method and steps, everything which was explained by Jasser, and everything remains the same. And for this confusion matrix, I've just taken the parameter from the confusion matrix. So as in the data sets, we could able to see, I have just used two different, these are the two different sensors which provides a frequency band. So as in that engine problem itself, we just check whether I'm going to use these two sensors or we are going to fix with only one sensor. So for that, I'm just taking the accuracy value, considering only one sensor and considering both the sensors. So, and I don't think this, yeah. So while estimating the confusion matrix and accuracy percentage, first checking with both the sensors. So we are getting the percentage of about 77.88% of accuracy of this model. And whereas checking with the only one sensor mount, obviously we are going to get the same. So same kind of relevance data, which is 77%. So it is obvious that we are going to use one sensor. What I have just checked is considering only the sensor 2 value, that is a frequency value. And that is bit just there is an increase in 1% of change in data. Maybe what I inferred that maybe that mount of the sensor positioned is the right thing, which gets me with 1% of higher accuracy rate. I am not sure whether this analogy is right or not. And while talking about the final business impact matrix. So this is the confusion matrix which I got. I have just taken that a complete service cost as 2,50,000 rupees. If suppose I'm going to change oil into that, so that was going to add me with 50,000 rupees. Suppose if that complete gearbox is wanted to replace, it is going to just take around 5 lakhs. So just taking the confusion matrix. So now in real, I wanted to change the oil, but I also predicted that the oil has to be changed. So then the total cost is going to be 3 lakhs. Whereas in real, I wanted to change the oil, but in the prediction, I have not identified that the oil has to be changed. So in that case, my gearbox is going to get wear or some kind of failure in the gearbox. So which means I'm going to change the gearbox, and which will also add on with the service cost. So which is going to be like 7,50,000 rupees of loss to the company. And in the next condition, if I don't want to change the oil, in real, I don't want to change the oil, but in prediction, I have just identified I wanted to change the oil. So it is very obvious that I'm going to change the oil. So which is going to be fetching with 3 lakhs of amount. And for the total cost, if I'm not going to change anything, only the normal servicing is done, so 2,50,000 rupees has to be sent. So this is with respect to business impact matrix. And whereas the next thing is I wanted to get the actual inference of the value. So just multiplying with the confusion matrix.
Sridhar, just one thing. When you predicted that there's no oil change required, and actually also there is no oil change required, then why the cost is coming up? Service cost, why it is there?
Actually, only this complete confusion matrix is to check whether I wanted to change the oil or not. This service cost is obviously needed for some other parameters.
No, in that case, see, if I'm predicting that there is no changes required, still why I am rendering the service? Why the service cost is still coming into?
Okay, this service cost is a common thing, which if the person is going to the turbine, he will be just analyzing some other components and all. And this oil change is the parameter whether he wants to change the oil or not. So I've just taken this, and now he is not going to change the oil. Only thing is that common service cost it includes.
Okay, just look at that part, because what I feel, because if you are predicting the oil change, and then only the service is required once you are going to do that actually. So in that case, if I'm not if I'm not predicting that oil change is required actually, so it means there's no need to visit and render the service at all.
Okay.
Okay, fine. You can carry on. You can carry on.
So just multiplying with the confusion matrix and the business impact matrix, I have just got the just total cost, total service cost around 13,571 lakhs. I think now I got the exact point of what you said, sir, because I cannot further proceed with the next step. I've just tried with your explanation, but my value is completely deviating from what I expect. Maybe that is the reason I think I should work on here.
Correct.
I could not move to the next step because of maybe I thought I have just made somewhere the wrong, so I didn't further proceed with the the next step of comparison. I could not able to compare with that.
Correct.
And that's it for my project. I've just
but it's good at least you have attempted the whole process, and the example that we discussed in the lab is on the grease, low grease conditions. So you have applied the same learning to the gearbox oil change and the maintenance one. So I think that is being captured rightly, and it's a
I think I got the input which made me I cannot further proceed with the comparison.
Correct. So if could have been compared with the two baseline conditions,
that would be perfect.
Correct. That's good. I think that's all from my side.
So
Anoopji, for your inputs.
No, I think also very much interested in this particular application.
For actual deployment, I have just spoke with one of the Vestas person. He was working in data analytics project. I have just requested him to provide me with some of the real-time data where I could able to make some real sense of that project. And maybe I'm not sure some reason I could not able to get the data. So I've just tried with whatever exact data we had. And the other thing is even if we create the data with random variable, and then I'm unsure whether that makes sense. Is it comfortable that we create our
no, in that case, in that case, Sridhar, we are not going completely random. Idea was basically to identify the for example, if you are using a frequency, so we will only be adding the random noise. We are not going with the baseline data also to be random. So that base frequency is fixed, and then we can create the rest of the data by adding a random noise to it.
Okay.
So data will not be random. Only we are just increasing the number of data points for learning and other but just manipulating the noise part.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So in this case, the use case and the recommendation, if we are making the same effort as the others to make an improvement on whatever you have done so far, do you see that there is still scope for going back to the customer or the one who's sharing this data with you to get a list of all the good practices which they are currently following? So which means you're getting to understand more about things which can be done without going for a ML adoption. How do they know that this oil change has to be done at that particular time? Is it flexible? Is it fixed? Is there any other way these guys find out whether they can continue to run for a little 20% more time without changing the oil?
Yeah, I think that is what the baseline comparison we discussed in the live session also. If we could have done that, if I compulsorily replacing the oil after a certain fixed interval of time, that is one scenario to be compared. another is that if I'm not changing oil at all, what would be the implications on the business? And if I apply the machine learning method to predict, and if I'm following this confusion matrix, what could be the outcome? And then we can compare all the three together to get a sense out of this.
Yes.
So
Yes, because
maybe
these are
yeah.
three genres of learning. One genre which we have been used to is that you buy a machine and along with the machine comes a manual, like our cars, you know, we buy. So we are told that if you do not get it serviced within 5,000 kilometers, you are going to be out of warranty. So it creates a moral pressure on us. We take it to the mechanic and he replaces the oil and we come back happy and everything keeps running smoothly. That's one scenario. The technologies we are offering is giving a completely other side of the possibility, which is saying that you don't worry, you keep running the equipment. If at all there is anything going wrong, we will alert you. That is what predictive and prescriptive are, you know, about. That you keep going and do your job. If there are any deviations, malfunctions, danger points, our system will detect, and based on your operation, it will alert you, it will guide you, it will do all of that. And then you have the in-between where somebody says, I have matured, I am not going to do what was mandated and compulsory. I have become more intelligent. Now I can listen to my machine. I can know if there is a noise. And then based on that, I can figure out whether I need to do a repair, oil change, shutdown maintenance, etc. So these are the three levels of, I would say, maturity different users are exhibiting. In Industry 4.0, we are trying to go to the other extreme completely, that they should now start relying on this kind of intelligence which data science is bringing about. So in terms of crossing the barrier for adoption, you will have to encounter, you know, two sets of mature audience and two sets of related questions. But this is a good real application. I think you can stay with it. There's a lot more which can definitely be forthcoming here.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Good evening, sirs. Is my screen visible?
Atul, we can see that. Yeah.
Yes, so sir, this is my
please go ahead.
Project for FSM 204, and this project could not be a continuation of the previous project, unfortunately, and I had to pick a data set given on the internet. So the data set that has been chosen is for a pulp to paper mill, and as you can see in the photo, large rolls of paper are the product that is being manufactured. And the problem arises when the tension in the paper increases due to unknown factors and there is a tear in the paper. So that situation results in a, what do we say, wastage of material and an incomplete roll. And also maintenance needs to be done on the machine. So you can say that the machine is not operating in the required parameters. So the dataset that is obtained is a multivariate time series, and this is a supervised learning problem. That means the data has already been labeled and the timestamps with which all the sensor values are given. At that particular timestamp, there is a column where the predictor where the data is there, whether there is a tear or not. That means a 0 or 1 condition. So the data is already labeled, and that's why it is a supervised learning problem. The event to be predicted is extremely rare, and it is associated with paper break in the mill. I will tell you how it is rare in the coming slides. So this is the, if you see at the bottom, this is what the data set looks like. It has a time column where each of the sensor values has a timestamp, and the Y, the second column Y is the binary response variable, which gives the condition of the what do we say, the machine, and whether there is a tear in the roll or not at this particular point. So out of 18,400 records, there are just 124 rows which have a tear condition. That's why I have said that this particular data, the condition which has to be predicted is extremely rare. It is lesser than 1% of the conditions. So the predictor variables that have been provided are x1 to x60, and the only information given about them is there are various sensors throughout the assembly line of the roll, from the pulp to the what do we say, the roll, and their nature is not being explained. It is all related to the motor what do we say, parameters and other things that have been measured. So these predictor variables have already been centered, and only x28 is a variable that is of the categorical nature. All of them are numeric in nature. So x28 is a categorical variable which represents the type of paper being produced. So all right, I will move forward. So the project objectives would be that once a paper break happens, the entire process is stopped, the reel is taken out, any problem found in the machine is fixed, and the production is resumed. This can take a while and causes time as well as resources losses. So the owner of the dataset had mentioned that a 5% reduction in the break events will give us significant cost saving for the mill. So the project objectives would be rank the predictor variables in descending order of correlation, use them, and quantify the gains that would be taken from implementation of an ML model. So choosing the features was, what do we say, aided by the RapidMiner Go interface. So once this data set was preliminary analysis was done on this data set, it ranked all the variables in the order of their correlation with the output or the 0-1 condition. So I used all the predictor variables that had a correlation higher than 0.05. And out of the 60 variables that have been provided, 38 of them proved to be higher than 0.05 correlation. So also the x28 variable, in MATLAB, while doing the data cleaning and pre-processing, I wrote a small script which turned the x28 categorical variable into a numeric variable, which will have some correlation to the output. So not only, so the owner mentioned that for implementing the ML model, the x28 variable should be converted in the sense that if one particular form of paper is being produced for 10 or 15 rows, then the change of the type of paper should be captured. So every time there is a change in the type of paper, I have kept a value of 1, and remaining of the values should be 0. So this change in the type of paper might have higher correlation to the breakage because there is a change in the input parameters to the machine rather than just the type of paper that is being produced. So this categorical variable was converted to a numerical variable in this manner. So the RapidMiner model gave us this. These are the results of the RapidMiner model. Out of 18,400 rows, as shown over here, it actually used some kind of holdout validation. So the RapidMiner model did not provide a lot of customizability of the parameters it chose. So as we can see, it used some form of holdout validation. That's why the number of events that have been classified over here are much lesser than the actual number of entries. And here we can see that accuracy is extremely high, and that is because most of the events are anyways not of the breakdown condition. Hence, looking at this accuracy, we should not judge this model. The way to judge this model is looking at actually when the breakdown happens, how many of those have been captured. So that would be captured in the recall percentage. So that is around 50%. 50% of the breakdown events were actually predicted by the model. And we can also see that around 54% of the 45% of the events that have been predicted were actually not breakdown. So we will in the further slides, we will see the business impact matrix and how this actually affects the entire operation and the monetary repercussions. So I decided to replicate this model. This gave me an idea of how the data set behaves. So I decided to take this data set, do the cleaning, and then proceed to find results in MATLAB. So in MATLAB, I could find a model which is of the bag trees preset, and it is an ensemble classification method. And what we can see is that the model has an accuracy of 99.7%, which again is not what we should be looking at. All right, I forgot to mention the form of validation used for this model is cross validation, and number of folds chosen was 5. So hence the numbers are not exactly comparable with the RapidMiner results. We would need to consider the percentage values over here to compare these two, because the actual values differ. So if we see here, accuracy is higher with it being 99.7%, and the precision meaning that the number of predicted breakdown events, 91% of them were actual breakdown events, as compared to only 8 or 9% which were misclassified. And the recall, if we observe all the breakdown events that actually occurred, 55% of them were actually predicted by this model. This is, we can say, other results of this MATLAB ML model. So here I have defined a business impact matrix, wherein I have defined the costs associated with each of these conditions. So profit from one complete reel of paper with no breakdown occurring is rupees 1.2 lakh. Cost of shutting down halfway and performing some form of upkeep or tempering or maintenance to the machine is rupees 20,000. So this would be only when our ML model tells us that, hold on, have a look at your machine before continuing, otherwise breakage may appear. So when one has been predicted, then we have a decrease in our profit from each reel of paper by 20,000. So we have a 1 lakh rupee profit for the reel produced after midway maintenance. So that will be whenever one has been predicted, whether right or wrong. When the model fails to tell us about the breakdown, and breakdown actually occurs, so there is a loss in time as well as material wastage. So that is a loss of rupees 2 lakh to the company. So this is the business impact matrix that I have defined. We further use this matrix to multiply it with the confusion matrices obtained from the models and evaluate their performance. So evaluating the RapidMiner model, the value matrix is obtained by multiplying its confusion matrix with the business impact matrix. And we see that the no breakdown conditions have been correctly predicted, give a 1.2 lakh profit for each reel. And if we see 18 lakh, that means 18 of those instances which were actually in this, what do we say, which had not been captured by the, would not have been captured before, would have given us a loss over here, have been converted into a profit-making reel, although it's slightly lesser than the ideal scenario, but still it is being converted from a loss-making scenario to a profit-making scenario. And here we see that the revenue has increased by 0.855%. This is the reference matrix that has been calculated, assuming that the breakdown never occurs. So then when the breakdown occurs, it's actually total loss for us. So this comparison has been done and it shows an increase in revenue of 0.855% if the RapidMiner ML model is deployed. If we evaluate the MATLAB model, we will see that it has a better chance of capturing the breakdown events as compared to the RapidMiner model, while misclassifying a very, very small amount of events as having to have maintenance. So here we perform the same reference matrix calculation too. And here we observe a 0.939% increase in revenue, considering that the ML model is deployed in the factory. The numbers are slightly different because of the test data that has been selected is selected in two different forms by the two models. So how to deploy the MATLAB model? So the MATLAB model can be exported in a format called PMML, and this PMML format is actually accepted and can be uploaded to ThingWorx Analytics. So importing of PMML model to the ThingWorx Analytics can be done in two ways. It can be imported in the Analytics Manager directly, or you can create an Analytics Server connector, and through that connector, create an analysis model, select this Analytics Server connector, and upload the PMML file for the analysis model. So through ThingWorx, if we connect our what do we say, PLC or edge devices to give us real-time data, then this model, which has been made in MATLAB, can be used to predict in real time. So a monetary gain of 0.939 would have been achieved if the model has been deployed. The machine learning exercise could be considered successful considering this. And the deployment of MATLAB model needs to be further explored, as in with the connection with the ThingWorx platform, etc. Thank you.
I think it's a nice example. Thanks. I think you have covered most of the aspects. That is what I was looking at. So very
Yes,
nicely attempted and explained. So thanks. I think that's all from my side. And at least you have taken it to the deployment and the methodology to do the same. And you have addressed most of the things. I think it's a nice project.
Thank you, sir.
Over to you, Anupji.
Yeah. So you looked at it in a holistic way. I do not have a question on your submission. I have a question on your next level of motivation. Would you like to be put in touch with an actual producer of this?
Definitely, sir. That would be a very great way of me to take this forward, because the scope for further implementation or learning in this project is limited, because this is a hypothetical, not hypothetical, it is an actual data set, but I have no way of connecting with them.
Correct. So if you can help me with a small elevator pitch, we discussed about elevator pitch in the earlier classes.
Yes, sir.
Which means if you meet a CEO in an elevator and you want to grab his attention, you will tell him in a way that he'll give you an appointment. Right?
Right. Sir.
So if you can draft something as an elevator pitch, run it past with Dr. Jha, and then I will send it across to a very senior person in the Ballarpur industry company, and they have definitely more than 1 mill. So if it makes sense for them, we can create it as a learning project to begin with. And if that is successful, then we can look at something beyond that. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think that's the last presentation for the day. And we have seen that how the learning from the course has been attempted. So it's really nice, and new platforms will be were experimented with. So I have discussed the various approaches for various platforms that are available for implementation, and most of you have explored that to a great extent. So I think that's a good point that I have captured from your presentations. Overall, it's good. And those who still feel that they can improve upon further, please just revisit your project idea, and if you can improve it further, for at least we can showcase them, we may be able to list out some of the good projects. I think that the industry can take them. That will be a real outcome from this learning. And as I was mentioning, it's not stopping once the course is over. It's just a starting point for all of you to start experimenting with these technologies, and there's enough potential lying outside whatever you have finished just now. So with that comments, we will be closing today's presentations, and we will be completing the assessment for all of you, and tomorrow we will give you the grades, the final
Sir,
grades.
that week 3 assignment is not open.
No, I'm not seeing anything because I'm not placing any cutoff date. So in that case, if you can see, it may consider as a late submission. So have you tried out that?
Yeah, it is not open.
Let me just quickly check that. Just hold on. So you're talking about the
Message
week
is coming,
3.
it is overdue.
It's overdue, but it's not okay. So which one you're talking about?
That clustering and classification exercise.
It's a week 3.
Week 3, yes.
Sir, for me, I could able to upload, sir.
Yeah, that is
Yes,
what
sir.
I see, because I didn't edit the cutoff date actually. That is why it should not be creating a problem. Due is fine, but you can submit at least. That is what I feel.
Okay, sir. Then we'll submit.
So it will keep indicating it is due, but it will accept the submission, so that it will mark that how many days it get overdue. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Just try it. If in case you are not able to, just drop me a message. I will just check into that.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Has everybody
you.
put their
Yeah.
project on the Moodle?
No, those who have not uploaded, please do that. In fact, those who have submitted the last moment, so please complete the submissions on the platform so that it can be further looked into. So anyone who has not uploaded the projects, what I can see now, it's still showing 5 submissions. So
I haven't submitted, sir. I will be
yeah. So
submitting,
please,
sir.
please do that. Please do
Sir.
that. Okay. Thank you. I think with this, we'll close the session. It's a nice interaction throughout the course. And tomorrow we'll let you know the grades.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.